Yep, your minutes, 2 minutes begin now. Thank you, Peter.
Well, again, thank you, and thank you very much to the opposition for a stimulating and interesting and friendly debate. The debate actually was on that atheists are wrong, but we didn't hear much about why they are right, in the light of the difficulties of their position. In fact, it was a singularly lacking in self-reflective debate from that side of the House. Instead, we heard the usual litany of bad things Christians have done or bad things religion has done, and I must admit I felt a little aggrieved at my point that Christianity is self-correcting and is self-reflective, and it has within itself that doctrine of sin which tells us, the Bible is full of it, that religious people are just as sinful and do things wrong as others do. That has never been grappled with for a single instant yet on the other side, and I think it needs to be, because otherwise we could have sat here all night saying all the bad things that Stalin, Lenin, etc., have done. We did not take that route. Secondly, if I could just say this, that my friend Russell, in his final remarks, astonished me beyond measure, I have to say, by saying that no evidence had been presented. He is apparently fixated on the philosophical proofs of the existence of God. When I was at seminary, they were debated back and forth. On the whole, it was up to you whether you believed them or not. Sometimes they're in fashion, sometimes out of fashion. That was not the reason, and it was not the evidence that I presented. And he said there was no evidence that I presented, or anyone presented, for the existence of God. Well, there is at least one. If God is that which is worshipped, then there are many people who worship in the world. We may worship at the wrong God, but we do have a God. And the argument needs to be about the God whom we worship, and the evidence needs to be assessed as I've assessed it, or asked invited assessment, to do with Jesus Christ. Lastly, can we say we could be wrong? Are we incorrigible? No, from our point of view, my point of view, yes, of course Christianity can be defeated by logic and argument, and that's one of its glories. People can stop being Christians because of argument, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Thanks. Thomas Pataki, please.
Our opponents were supposed to establish at the minimum that a God exists. All I could follow from the arguments mostly was this, that if there is no God, then there's no good, there's no morality, there's no decency, there's no life. I'm going to try something which may or may not work, but I won't. I will tell a short joke and then I want to draw a conclusion from it. It's this. I want to suggest to you that even if there was a God, even if there were gods, it would make no difference to our morality whatsoever. And the joke I want to tell is it's a cartoon from the New Yorker magazine. It's a courtroom scene. There's a judge. There are lots of barristers lined up. There's a jury, and behind the judge on a wall, there's a gigantic disembodied hand. It's God's hand, and God writes guilty. And a barrister stands up and says, "I object." The point is this. Even if there were God, we would still have to make up our minds about what attitude to take towards that God. Suppose the God was not the Christian God, but the God of Zeus. We would still have to make a moral assessment about whether this is a God worthy of respect, whether it's a God worthy of worship, whether it's a God worthy of love, one to obey, and all the rest of it. So morality is quite independent of any kind of theistic commitment that we need to make. Now, I think once you consider that, you see that this story about morality, depending on the existence of God, just collapses into a heap.
Thank you. Tracy Rowland.
Thank you. Well, before this program, I read Jane Caro's article in the Australian Book of Atheists, in which she claimed that she was brought up without any religious background, without any religious ideas or tradition whatsoever. And I think tonight we've discovered that at least there is a myth, at least, that Jane believes in, and that's the myth of God the misogynist. I think we've discovered something for Jane to believe in. And I want to say something about this misogynist God. Yes, in some religious traditions, the attitude to the relationship between the sexes is absolutely appalling, and I fully acknowledge that. In the Christian tradition, however, that is not the case. Christian attitudes to the sexes are founded on the notion of Trinitarian theology, which is that the Trinity is a relationship of persons of equality with difference, and this forms the foundation for the whole understanding of the Christian attitude to the sexes. Christians believe that God made man and woman as two modes of being human, and that they are of equal dignity, and there has never ever been any other theological position that is sustainable on the basis of the book of Genesis. If I had time, I could explain to you the Church's reservations about the ordination of women, and explain it has absolutely nothing to do with any ideas about the sexes not being equal. I could also say that it's absolutely not true that Christian women are not allowed to preach, so to speak. I have given so many speeches throughout my lifetime. So I think that this God, the misogynist, is a myth. It's not a creature of history, at least as far as the Christian tradition is concerned.
Thank you, Tracy. Jane Caro.
I believe it says in the Bible, by their fruit shall ye judge them. I will only say that about Tracy's argument. However, the Holy Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost. What, women can't even be in there at all? They're sort of a miasma, a ghost, they don't exist? Come on. Okay, I think the other side are incredibly pessimistic, and I really am frightened for them. I have enormous faith. I have a really strong, visceral, deep faith, which I think the other side lack. I have a great faith in humankind. I have much more faith in the goodness and essential goodwill of ordinary people than it seems to me many of the religious do. I do not believe in the need for an all-powerful being that punishes and rewards good or bad behaviour, and that it is only through that mechanism that human beings perform good or evil deeds. I do not believe that, and I think it is a great disrespect to how people really are. I see much hope in the world. I see much good humour, I see much goodwill, I see a debate like this which is held without fear. I mean, 100 years ago, if I'd gotten up and spoken the way I did tonight, I could have been in serious trouble. Mostly, I'm sorry about this, Tracy, but from believers. What do we see? Thanks to secular progress. We see an extraordinary change in women's rights. There's no arguing about that. That does not come out of religious doctrine. That comes out of secular rights, feminism, Mary Wollstonecraft and women fighting hard, secular women fighting hard, and mostly churches. Gay rights. We haven't mentioned that tonight, and I'm sorry. If women's soft underbelly, that's the softer underbelly.
Okay, thank you.
And the halving of poverty has happened in this secular 40 years.
Thank
Don't
you.
forget.
Scott Stevens.
Thank you. I'll just make three very simple points. Firstly, did you notice that there was only one person on the stage tonight that sounded remotely like a preacher? And that was our dear friend Russell Blackford. Hair and everything. And at one stage, I was actually thinking, would you like me to pass around the, offering plate? The second very simple point that I'll make related to that is, unfortunately, Russell is entirely incorrect when he depicted the so-called end of the wars of religion and the Council of Westphalia. Unfortunately, he misled you quite egregiously tonight, and I would strongly urge you to do some slightly more than superficial reading about the end of the wars of religion. The final point that I'll make, and I really did want to be heard very clearly on this point, I wasn't saying at any stage, unlike what Jane just portrayed, that we need this mechanism of God in order to muster ourselves, in order to be good. Instead, there is something quite terrifying about the way that Western culture has become so completely unaesthetic. The way that news has flattened things out almost entirely, such that the trivial and important are placed side by side. We are left without any sense of a hierarchy of values, that there are certain things that simply matter more. And unfortunately, what's missed so much in the railings of the atheists is that these hierarchies, these ideas that are more important than other ideas, these ideas that are part and parcel of ethical, philosophical, theological debate, are vital for a properly constituted, democratic, civil society. And I'll simply make this final point, that we saw something very similar to this kind of flattening out, rendering grey of all human life and culture in Eastern Europe, did we not, with the reign of dialectical materialism. And in the context of Eastern Europe, where people went in order to find colour, life, brightness, a sense of the good and the beautiful, was actually to Catholicism and to Catholic authors themselves.
Okay. Russell Blackford.
I want to thank Brother Stevens for giving me the opportunity to encourage you to read about the history that led to the secular state in my new book on that subject, which will be out later this year. Look, it's no good these people coming along, moralise, live in this fat, horrible society, even though it's not atheists' fault. Therefore, God, that will not wash. What we say, ladies and gentlemen, isn't that we claim to come along here and prove once and for all that no gods exist. The burden was not on us to do that, and we do not claim to be able to do that. That would be an overweening claim, which you will not hear from any prominent atheist or any atheist in a university. What we do claim is that no satisfactory argument has ever been put to demonstrate the existence of any kind of God. It was certainly not put tonight. They ran away from the arguments at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Furthermore, there are no good reasons to believe that any religion that we see, and specifically the Abrahamic religions, is a religion that has some kind of providential, omnicompetent God of love. We can at least rule out that kind of God, which is the most popular kind of God that is likely to be believed in here tonight.
So the first information to give you is the pre-debate poll. This is what you thought before you heard any arguments. And for the motion was 28.5%. Against the motion was 56%. And undecided 15.5%, which I thought would have been a bit bigger actually, but that's interesting. Now, as you know with the results, sometimes you can judge yourself as having won because you get an absolute majority, sometimes on the swing. So we'll see how the voting went afterwards. Well, undecided has dropped from 15.5% to 5.7%. For the motion, I can't quite read this, it looks like 28.9%. But with a serious majority against the motion, wins the debate with 66.3%. And so, I declare the motion lost. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your participation in this important debate, which I now declare closed.